had a top 50 finish, and I ended up, I played 75 entries, and I think I ended up more than doubling my money in the million tournament alone, which is always a good thing to do. But across the board, overall, won a little bit, did well in basketball, and ready to get after another week. Sheets, how about you?
Yeah, I was a small loser in football. As usual, I made money in MMA. And then you guys want variance? So if none of this other sports are variant enough for you, I played like 15 NASCAR lineups. One of them was literally in first place by itself on like the restart with 3 laps to go in like overtime, right?
Oh.
And it ended up out of the money.
I mean, I don't know how you guys do it with that NASCAR, man. That thing it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts. But let's get back after it today. I mean, look, we don't have basketball, but we do have a nice, it's funny, it's a 2-game slate, but like we can make something happen with a nice little 2-game slate. We're used to the 1-gamers on Monday, and we're going to have some fun with it. So we'll talk about baseball first. We'll get into basketball. Guys, remember to like and please subscribe and check out BetQL. Use the promo code BobbyFi for 20% off, all that stuff. But yeah, we're gonna talk some sports. So, Sheets, let's start off with the baseball. I guess we'll just talk about it game by game on each side. But is this sort of like an overall stance you're taking on either side tonight?
Yeah, I am. So I have one kind of weird take, and one just kind of standard one. So I'll go the standard one first. So on DraftKings, so Cole's going to be 100% owned, which probably should be. And the rest of the ownership is going to be spread between Snell and McCullers, I just presume. The only guy that I'm really just 100% confident in is McCullers. But that's the way everybody's going to think. I'm really of the belief that if you really want to be different on DraftKings today, you have to either do one of two things. One, just leave money on the table, or two, just fade Cole, which I don't know if I can do. So DraftKings is going to be really difficult for me. I'm going to really need you to kind of turn me onto some ideas that could help me be different. So I'm gonna play. You know what I mean? But I'm going to probably play 20 lineups and try to just kind of screw around and see if I can't get something going. FanDuel, quick overall thing. It was really weird. Like the way I kind of ran my FanDuel builds, I don't want to play Cole on FanDuel for no other reason than I think that the hitters, I think I want to be able to afford the hitters I want. So I think I'm going to fade Cole over there, at least 50% of the lineups. And get up to the hitters I want, because FanDuel it's very rare that FanDuel makes it hard for you to get who you want. But FanDuel, if I want to get the hitters I wanted, I couldn't really do it with Cole. So for me, I'm going to fade the 90% ownership on FanDuel. And I think the only way to do it on DraftKings is to fade it too, but I don't know how. So
do you really think he's going to be that high owned on FanDuel? Because I think people are going to try and get a little bit different, and I think he'll be I think he'll be like 50 to 60%, or maybe maybe it could even go a little bit lower, possibly. But I just thought it was my initial thought. Anyway, all right, man. Well, my side of it is basically simple. I think that overall, I'm with you on the fading Cole. I want to play Bassett on FanDuel.
Oh, now we got something.
Look, we're playing a 2-game slate here, buddy. We want to win some money. Yeah. We got to give ourselves a chance. This guy's been dominant, especially against righties. There's not that many lefties to be scared of. And by the way, you can play at least 2 guys against your guys in every lineup today.
That's the first thing I was going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah, at least 2. My initial ownership in the way that I'm sort of building is I'm making sure I have at least 1 or 2 Rays, and I want 1 or 2 Rays that are going to be of the lower own weight Rays. Maybe Lau is going to have ownership now because he literally just hits home runs off Garrett Cole every time he faces him, it feels like. I'm sorry, not Lau. Excuse me, the first baseman, Choi.
Choi.
So Choi would be my favorite of those guys. But I mean, we'll go game by game. But that's one thing I'm doing to get different. And then on DraftKings, I don't mind eating a little bit of the chalk. And I think trying to pay up and down and go up, for the overpriced seeming, especially on FanDuel actually, where I'm playing Bassett, I want to play the expensive Yankee bats. And you're going to get like Luke Voigt at like 10% ownership or something tonight. So that's what I'm going to do on FanDuel. Anyway, let's talk about the first side of the games, because I actually think that it's funny. This game's total is sort of jumping. I'm a little surprised by the second game total not jumping a little bit more. I think people are going to play this first game quite a bit. I think pitching wise, it's going to be McCullers. On DraftKings, that is what I'm doing, but I actually have some Bassett lineups too on some larger field, and I like Bassett. I actually think that there's an upside thing for him here. It's not a must, it's game one or whatever, so these guys should have a pretty good leash. I feel good about McCullers too, but I also it is weird to have everybody playing McCullers when you're facing the team with the highest run total on the slate.
Yeah, I don't know. But then again, it's like
they strike out a lot, too.
And not only that, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm really, really good at this because I'm really good at figuring out where the public's going to go because this is really what I did instantly when I saw the slate.
Yeah.
And I started building. I'm like, oh, this is just easy. The worst pitcher on the slate is Bassett. I'm going to get all these Astros in. I'm going to get 5 Astros in. I'm going to play McCullers and Cole because I don't want to play Snell because I'm afraid of the Yankees, right? So I'll play Cole and McCullers, put in the top Astros, and God forbid Kiyojoka plays and you can pay down a catcher and get him. I'm going to play him, and that's just what I'm going to do. And it's so easy to do that, but it just can't be the way to do it. that's the best way to describe it.
Eric already dropped him with his first question. Gary the Goat and Troy BVP. My thoughts are that they're both great plays anyway. So the BVP is just good. I mostly have. I think you could play Snell and Cole in the same lineup. I have lineups like that too. But I do like the Choi, and I love. I mean, Gary Sanchez is another one. His BVP is actually astounding. Yet there's also projections out there that don't even have him catching today, which he may not catch. But I'd be shocked if he doesn't DH or find his way in the lineup somehow because he's absolutely owned Blake Snell. So
we think the Kiyojuchi is he's going to play.
The who is?
The Kiyohosha or whatever, the catcher?
That's what some sites have projecting. I'm not – because he usually catches Cole during the season.
Oh, I hope so.
So if he catches Cole, then you just probably get Gary Sanchez as a – I cannot see Gary Sanchez not being in there as a DH in that case. I really can't. I just think it's too good of a matchup. I mean –
Well, for me, if that's the case, like on DraftKings, if they're both in, I'm definitely playing the Kiyojoka.
That's fine. I have Sanchez ahead of him, but I don't know for sure that's going to happen. And right now, I'm still planning Sanchez being in. I'm still not sure about Higashikawa, whatever. I also do think that going back to the Astros side of this, I think you're going to see a lot of ownership on these. I mean, look, this is a small slate. It's going to be a lot of ownership on everybody, but I think it's going to be pretty. It's the only guy you're going to be able to get low ownership would be Martin Maldonado, and then the weird part is that Josh Reddick is going to be the other one, and he's the guy who I'm actually using. So. I don't mind using Josh Reddick batting 8th. He's 2,800. He'll steal the occasional base. He's got some power upside. There aren't that many lefties. Bassett struggles more with lefties than righties, et cetera, et cetera. So Reddick, Brantley, and Tucker are my favorites of the Astros. The problem is using up your outfield spots it's kind of tough. So you're going to find yourself with some Altuve, especially on FanDuel where you can only play 3 second basemen. And then I think everybody loves Bregman, but he's projected at lower ownership than I sort of thought he would be. So maybe I'll throw in a Bregman lineup or two because I was going to fade what I thought was going to be him at pretty high ownership.
All right, we're going to go right into it because Eric is bringing up some good questions that especially related to this 2-game slate. So he really wants to stack Oakland and he likes Chris Davis. So here are the arguments for Oakland in general, right? I mean, first of all, McCullers is. I have to think that he's going to be huge ownership. I mean, you know what I mean? I just do. I mean, just again, that's just my instinct is he's like the easiest guy to play, aside from Cole, obviously. And so you're naturally going to get leverage against him by playing the Oakland guys. And just instinctively to me, it doesn't seem like the Oakland guys are the ones you want to play, which means they're probably going to be the lowest owned, I guess. But then on the other hand, Bobby, you're telling me that they have the highest run total though too. So are a lot of optimizers going to spit them out or no?
Yeah, Marcus Semien is going to be in more than half the lineups tonight. Without okay. I don't even have a doubt about that. I actually think that it's going to. If anything, maybe it's in the Matt Olson, who is 0 for a million with 8 strikeouts against McCullers, is going to be 30% on tonight. That's the way it's going to go. And I'm okay with getting a little bit away from that. I think the projected ownership on guys like Murphy and things like that could be a little bit crazy because people maybe not accounting for for Sanchez playing, who's basically the same price. And you definitely want to play Sanchez, which is why I like Murphy as a pivot. I like the Oakland stack too a little bit. You can play the cheap Jake Lamb, who's terrible. You can play Robbie Grossman, who's probably one of the better plays on the slate at 3.1. And he's the guy who I don't think people are going to click on. He's probably the lowest owned Oakland player, and he's got the most reasonable price. I like Chris Davis' price also. You're not getting too creative with these guys. They're going to have ownership. Canna would be my next favorite in terms of actually hitting. I actually like Olsen in general, just in this, even though he hasn't hit McCullers specifically. Tommy La Stella will have a little lower ownership, but mostly it's going to be the guys who people are going to flock to are going to be Semien. I think there'll be some Canna. There'll be a lot of Olsen. So any of the other guys, if you're going to do the Oakland stack, I would encourage those guys. And the guys who I'm leaning more towards are the Grossmans. On FanDuel, I like Canna a lot. I like Chris Davis, and I like LaStella on FanDuel as well. That's basically my favorite Oakland guys. And then I like Murphy because I think he's going to end up being lower owned. I don't know, maybe not. If people really are under the impression that Gary Sanchez may not play and we don't get a Yankee lineup before these lock, then you might see Murphy actually have ownership, which might actually make Gary Sanchez like a good tournament, which should never happen here. Am I losing at cheats with this?
I don't know. Again, these slates are like really just weird to me. I mean, like I'm looking at this 2-game slate, and you saw what I saw. Like there's like literally no standout play for me. I mean, like so here's what I want to ask you. Like, how are you So are you going to probably look to do 5-man stacks today, or
no? In general, I don't ever try to. If I build it that way and it happens, so be it. You're talking about a total between 2 games of 16 runs being scored. You can pick pieces. You can use guys against your pitchers. There's no problem with that. That's why I said I'm going to have 1 or 2 Tampa Bay players in every single lineup, and I'll have Cole in almost all my DraftKings, basically all my DraftKings lineups. I think.
Well, let's talk about the other thing that we talk about when we're talking about Tampa. Which guys, if you want to play,
don't worry about pinch hitting at all. You don't think about that kind of stuff when Garrett Cole's pitching. So he's going to pitch 7 innings. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's going to throw 100 million pitches. So you're going to get at least 3, probably 4 times through the order with him on the mound. So that's the way I look at that. But I agree with all that Eric's saying. I like Choi too. Again, I hate the word lock button. I'll never use it, but I do like Choi. And I do like Bassett. I like Bassett on FanDuel as an extreme contrarian play, and then stacking up those big, powerful Yankee righty bats.
My favorite Tampa guys, just if you're going to play Tampa, just so you know, my favorite guy is the Arozarena, and my next favorite is Kiermaier. I'm not gonna go crazy with anybody, honestly, but those would be my 2 favorites. I'm not as much of the BVP guy as other people are, so I'm not gonna be jamming in Choi. I don't think, although I like him, I just don't think I'm gonna be jamming him.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah,
I think he's really the best first baseman on the slate, personally, and I think you're going to get low ownership. So I'm going to say that I will be jamming in Choi on DraftKings, especially.
Now, you'd rather play him than Olsen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's a lot cheaper too. It's a big lineup construction thing. He's a lot cheaper. We'll have 1/3 the ownership, and actually profiles better than Olsen does in the matchup. So everything leads me to Choi. And then the other one is Voit. I like Voit a ton, so that's what I'm doing at first base mostly. Like Yandy is actually these guys aren't gonna be owned. So I will have 25% Yandy Diaz. I will have 20% Margot. I'll have 50 or 60, maybe 70% even Choi between the sites. I will have 30% Kiermaier. I will have on shortstop. I think Adames might be my only shortstop that I'm using. So because of his price. So and then in Brandon Lau, I'll have 50% of Brandon Lau, if not.
Let's really talk about this. So are you playing a big lineup today?
Yeah, my big lineups have Brandon Lau on DraftKings, and let me just make sure who else.
Wait, so you're not playing Cole in your big lineup, or you are?
Cole is in my big lineup. I don't care. I'm gonna play. I have Lau and Choi in my main lineup on DraftKings against Cole, and I have on FanDuel in my main lineup against Cole. I have Adames. I think I just have Adames on that particular build. But other ones, I have Adames and Margot.
Okay.
Just because of pricing. Torres or Correa, I like Torres better. I think the way to do this is I actually am shocked at the Yankees total, and I'll be happy to say that I think they score more runs. I think Blake Snell's a very good pitcher, but we've just seen this story too many times from the Yankees since they've sort of gotten back and healthy. And the weird part is like they're not even like fully like haven't been healthy that long, but they're just monsters. What you do on DraftKings or what I'm going to do on DraftKings. And the weird part is that because Higashikawa is getting projected ownership at like 35% on some of these sites, we don't even know if this guy's going to play yet. Even though he probably will catch Cole. We'll see how they do it anyway.
Right.
But it could also make Gary Sanchez lower owned, which I love. So I love Sanchez on the Yankees. I love Stanton. I think I'm preferring Stanton over Judge. He just looks.
I do for sure.
He looks a little better, and he's always had Judge is great against lefties, but Stanton has always been a little bit more of a more splitsy guy. Now, he doesn't have the same overall average that Judge has normally, but he has more of an exaggerated advantage against lefty. But what you do is you play the Torres, Frazier, Urshela, and then one of those guys, Stanton, Judge, or LeMahieu, or Voit, or 2 of them, and you make it a 4-man or a 5-man. But whatever it is, I think you can go ahead. That's the one team that I feel good about full going ahead and all the way stacking. And I really think that you want to get multiple of these power bats in most of your lineups. I think because of the pricing, it might be a little bit harder than people think to get them in. I also think that because of the run total, that they might be a little bit lower owned than the other teams in the first game. So I want to get the Yankees, but I want one of those power bats that I mentioned, or in LeMahieu, along with the bottom of the lineup, Urshela, Frazier if he's in, whether it's Higashikawa or Sanchez. That's the way I'm planning on stacking it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, the question is DJ's got to be the highest scoring hitter on DK or not. The problem with stuff like that is there's no such thing. There should never, ever, ever be a hitter in baseball, even on a 2-game slate. Even on a 1-game slate. There should never, ever, ever, ever be a hitter who is projected significant, who is going to be the highest scoring hitter. You know what I mean? In basketball, we can say, hey, for sure, this guy, James Harden's playing, he's going to have the most fantasy points that night. That is not true for any hitter in baseball ever, not once. So we can't think like that. All right. I think we're pretty much, I'm just looking overall if there's anything I've got in my lineups that I'm not touching on. Like I said,
you're gonna play McCullers or you're gonna play Snell?
I'm playing McCullers, a little bit of Snell on DraftKings, but mostly it's McCullers. Only like a couple lineups with Snell. I really like the Yankees today. I think the Yankees are I just want to keep betting on them, and yeah, that's where I'm at. And I love that I can do this bottom stack of the Yankees at lower ownership. I just don't think people are going to pay $4,500 for Clint Frazier. And if they do, you're going to find Stanton, Judge, or whoever, all the other good Yankees in there. And I'm doing it with the worst Yankees and just throwing one of those guys in. So that's where I am. Eric, never to be sorry. I'm just trying to remind you guys that it's baseball. There's huge variance, as we all know, and you just nailed it when you said everybody can go 0 for 4. That's absolutely right. Everybody can go 0 for 5. But yeah, I have 100% Cole on DraftKings. I have 0 Cole on FanDuel, and I have 75% McCullers on DraftKings, which will probably turn into like 60%. But I have Bassett 80% on FanDuel, and that's where I'm at.
Well, let me. So you mentioned that Cole's gonna pitch like 7 innings. So is this the format where? I mean, they're going like just back to back to back to back, right? They only are going to have 5 pitchers. You're not going to be able to have a guy pitch twice, right?
I actually don't. I think there might be a break on one day of the series. I'm not sure.
Oh, is there? Okay.
I don't have it in front of me. I don't think it matters. Okay. I mean, it matters in one sense. Like, if Cole pitches 1, no matter what, he's going to be able to pitch game 5. You know what I mean? And Eric, thank you, by the way, for the love of the shirt. My girlfriend got me this shirt, and I thought it was sweet. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think that bottom Yankees stack, 1 or 2 Tampa bats, and then filtering in Kyle Tucker as an individual, one of my favorite plays in the slate, Brantley, Reddick, these sort of other Houston guys are my sort of focus. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
All right, guys, let's jump into some football because we got a fun little 2-gamer tonight, and I want to talk about it because I would love to get some ownership projections. I would love to get who's going to actually be playing because right now the projections are all screwed up with Devontae Adams, who's doubtful, still being listed with a huge projection.
Oh, really?
And it's going to be weird. So we're going to go game by game because this is going to be a weird one. So we have a massive favorite in the Chiefs over the Patriots. Could we end up with not a low on Mahomes, but maybe he's 30% instead of like 60, like he probably should be?
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Matt Ryan tonight, so I'm a little bit
really okay.
Really like Matt Ryan. I love Julio tonight. I'll get into all this stuff in a minute, but
so he's definitely going to play
if he plays. He's assumed that right now him and Ridley are expected to play. You could do the Hoyer thing because they're going to have to throw. But I would be more looking if you're going to play the Patriots guys. I think that you want to play like Edelman or Harry. These are not going to be off the board. What is a little weird that he's going to be off the board is Damiere Byrd. Because even on a large slate, even when we were talking about the whole slate being regular, not sure he was minimum cost, he was going to get some ownership at minimum cost. And now we have a 2-game slate, and he's not going to get any ownership. So I think that's kind of interesting as a place to go. I would like to be ahead of the field, though, on the receivers, just because of volume for the Patriots. And I would put Harry, because of price, maybe number 1. But really, if they're really in any sort of competitive game at all, you got to imagine Edelman's going to get peppered. But the real guy you want here, in my opinion, is James White. I don't know. Look, it wasn't a physical injury that had him out. We've seen Rex Burkhead take all the stuff, and go crazy with it, and they're going to throw the ball to the running back. All these things, they're going to give him plenty of rushes. I think James White gets a bulk of the work coming back. They love him on this team. They love Burkhead too. I'm going to play some Burkhead, but you're going to get White at lower ownership in a pass-happy game. He's like the greatest catching running back of all time. Let's play James White and I mean like play him in like half your lineups, probably maybe even higher.
Yeah, I thought of that. And then I was just worried that it would be way too easy. And I was going to play Burkhead anyway. Is that no good?
What do you mean? Burkhead's projected to be about twice the popularity of James.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's the opposite. Yeah, it's exactly flipped.
Well, that's weird. Okay.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen when it was announced to be a two-gamer, which is funny because as a full slate, when it was going to be on the full slate, no one was going to play Burkhead, and some people were going to take stabs at James White. So it's kind of a strange situation.
It's like so weird because, I mean, I just naturally thought that that people would just do that, just play James White.
At the end of the day, maybe that's where they'll come to. There's going to be a lot of content out there with a lot of people probably saying similar things that I'm saying. So that's where it is. You're saying I'm just confused. Eric just jumped in. Eric, you're jumping into the next game, but I'm trying to figure out. You said there's no. I haven't heard one thing about Marquez Valdes-Scantling being out. I don't think he's out by any means. So we'll get to that game in a minute. What I'm struggling with is what to do with the KC side. I think the simple answer is play some Hardman and play a lot of Sammy Watkins. You also are going to have to play Hilaire. I don't care what the ownership's going to be. It's going to be really. You're going to want a running back, I think, in your utility in most lineups. I think you're going to play Hilaire. I think you're going to play James White or Burkhead. I don't mind either of them. And I think you're going to play Aaron Jones in basically all your lineups. That's my personal plan.
Well, let's talk for a second about the receivers for Green Bay.
Wait, let's go stick that game by game because I get confused.
Oh, you want to do game by game?
Yeah, that's what I thought that's what we were doing. We talked about New England and KC.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah. So what do you look like? Good.
No, that's fine. I mean, I just figured the Kansas City game was just going to be just a colossal shit show, and it was going to be a total blowout, and kind of like Kansas City defense.
Yeah, I think that's the standard thing, and you should probably play the defense with Hilaire too, just because he's probably going to have. He's probably going to have plenty of opportunities tonight. But let's just say, for argument, I mean, even if it's a shit show, like they're going to have to score points. You know what I mean? And they're going to score points, so we can't really just like fade the passing game entirely. Yeah,
so you know who I like? I like Edelman. So it's like you said, Edelman, White, and Harry. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Would you play Damiere Byrd?
I talked about him. Yeah, I said I think he's a good. Yeah, I think he's a good play because he was going to have some ownership. His ownership is going to be basically similar to what it would have been on a full slate on a 2-game slate, which is really, really weird. And there's a lot of reasons for it because other people's affordable pricing. But I think he gets overlooked because of that. So let's say he ends up 10% or 15%. I would like to be like around 30 on him. 25 to 30 maybe. You don't need all the savings. That's part of what does it. So leave it. I definitely advise that if you're playing the large win $1 million thing, you should be leaving money on the table, and often in some cases maybe even a significant amount of money, because this game could get ugly, like Sheets mentioned. And I want to go back to this KC passing game thing. I think it's very weird that people don't play Sammy Watkins more. And I've talked about this before. Even on this slate, I don't expect him to get a ton of love. He's put up 13 and 21 in 2 of the 3 games that they've played so far. We've seen him blow up slates before. He's 4.3K. Why aren't people interested in this guy? I
will say this. I have 20 DraftKings lineups slated right now, and 50% of them have Sammy Watkins.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So basically, I love that because I'm going to have about 40%. Tyreek Hill, I'm going to be below the field on Hill and Kelsey, more on Kelsey than I am on Hill. I think that's just – these are 60% owned guys, and there's variance, and especially because we like them to win. So if Kelsey's, let's say, the predicted he's 70% that he's supposed to be, I want like 25. And it's only because he can break the slate, and it'll only be in certain types of stacks, probably with Mahomes.
Yeah, I really have all of this. I have maybe this is all too chalky. I have a lot of Tyreek Hill, a lot of Kelsey, a lot of Watkins, Hilaire, Chiefs defense. You know what I mean?
Not popular. Watkins, I don't think he's not supposed to be popular. So I actually think he's the one you're getting discrepancy. I would encourage maybe throwing a little Hardman in or a little Demir Bird to get a little different. But I think that overall you can play some of that chalk. I'm overweight on all of these non-chalky things. I have to be underweight, obviously, on the chalk. Otherwise, I can't play everybody, And I'm much more focused on the second game. I think most people – the weird part is there's going to be tons of ownership on the first game. But this second game, it'll have ownership too. Don't get me wrong. We're going to, Julio and – anyway, let's talk about the Atlanta side first. Why don't you talk about your favorite plays?
All right. Yeah, I do think this is going to be the most popular side game, and for good reason. It's going to be the closest game, and it'll be probably a more fun game if you want to know the truth. So favorite plays, nothing particularly fancy, honestly. Gurley, Julio, and Ridley. I mean, those are my two favorites. All my favorites. I mean, again, nothing particularly fancy. I mean. Who's going to be? I mean, I guess Russell Gage going to be like popular. I have to see where the ownership comes in on some of these guys. So I really have no problem fading any of this. I mean, depending on who it is.
That's all fine. Yeah, I mean, I'll just look at it like this. I prefer both Julio and Ridley over Tyreek Hill in the game flow environment tonight.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, and I like Russell Gage. I also think he's going to be a little more popular than Watkins, which feels weird to me because Watkins is technically like the number 2. He's like the number 3. And it's Pat Mahomes, the greatest quarterback in history, throwing him the ball. So I would probably just side with Watkins over Gage, but I still like Gage. I'm just throwing this out there that I would probably go that route. The long shot tournament play you've got is Olamide Zacchaeus. I can't ever pronounce his name right. The 4th receiver for the for what's it called for Atlanta. He had 4 catches last week on 6 targets, and he's 3,400. He's like the weird. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, maybe you get 4 or 5% of them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then the same thing's true on the other side. So this is what's going to be weird. I don't know how this can happen where no one's going to play any because Rodgers has to throw the ball to somebody. So they're going to probably side with Shepard, and that's fine. I'm going to side with MVS, even though I know Rodgers and everybody says he hates MVS and he won't throw him the ball and all this. There's not that many other guys to throw the ball to. I'll take some shots on Malik Taylor. I'll be ahead of the field on these guys. By the way, I didn't mention this. I'll be below the field on Julio because I like the other 3 running backs so much. On Gurley because I like the other 3 running backs so much. My favorite tight end play on the slate is Hayden Hurst, even though I don't like usually attacking Green Bay. I just like the price and how many routes he's running, and I'm very into this Atlanta offense. And then you have a very basic, easy run back on the other side from Atlanta where you kind of want to be ahead on Atlanta's tight end too. So, I'm not playing that much Kelsey, so I obviously need to play more than just one tight end. So Tanyan on the other side would be the guy I would look to. It wouldn't surprise me if Brady throws like sort of a nothing touchdown to one of these other guys. So if you're playing showdowns, Stenberger is the guy you want to get in there in some lineups. But this is I've never seen such a thin core. And what I think might end up happening, and this is going to be sort of the wild brainchild play that I'm sort of fiddling with, if Jamal Adams had wide receiver eligibility, I would have no problem playing Jamal Adams and Aaron Jones. I just like the running backs. That's the thing I'm running into an issue with is how do I play Jamal Williams and keep the running backs that I like. But Jamal Williams is your other differentiator in this game.
Okay, so you said Jamal Adams. You meant Jamal Williams, right?
That's what I meant.
Okay. Yeah, so Shepard's not going to be sneaky, huh?
Maybe like lower. I mean, like for a 2-game slate, he's maybe going to be. Well, my guess is that the ownership projections are going to jump crazily now that we officially have Adams out because we didn't officially have him out until just now.
Yeah. And what do you think of that tight end?
Tanyan, I like it.
Okay.
I mean, I have to like him because I don't have another choice. There's only if I'm not going to use Kelsey, and then we don't even know who the hell's going to play tight end for New England. We don't really know if anybody will catch any balls. I have to like Tanyan a little bit, and like I said, I'll take a shot large field with Stenberger. Rodgers is going to throw for a few hundred yards or a couple hundred plus yards tonight probably, although they should be able to run the ball in Atlanta pretty well. So somebody's going to have a game. And maybe he'll spread it out to all of them, but they're so cheap, somebody still has to have a game. So maybe that's one thing you could do because of at least where the current projected ownerships are. Maybe you just set a rule where you have to have one either Green Bay receiver or tight end in your lineups. That's something I'm considering doing. It doesn't feel good because these are not guys I feel comfortable with.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of choices, man. Well, I'm either going to win. I think I'm either going to win big or lose big tonight because I'm definitely off a little bit of the chalk. I don't have interest in a lot of this chalk. I mean, I'm looking at the highest owned players here. And And most of them, I'm almost beneath the field on every one of them, except for the only ones I like are Aaron Jones and Hilaire that I'm going to be above the field on. And actually, even then, I probably will end up just being with the field because you can't get higher than like 85 for 90%. And then I like Edelman and Julio and Ridley, but I don't like Hill, Kelsey. I'm going to be well behind on Burkhead. I'll be behind on basically everybody else except for Watkins that's sort of popular-ish. What QB do I like again? I like Matt Ryan. Look, there's absolutely nothing wrong. Like Pat Mahomes, I'll probably have 20% of them. I think he's actually going to be a little more popular. He doesn't need to throw all game long, but he'll do his thing. He's going to just do it. Aaron Rodgers, it's weird that he's got projected ownership, and yet you have no receiver that he's throwing the ball to with any ownership projected. So I don't know.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, and it's also why I can sort of write out Gurley. Maybe they build the lead and they're running the ball with Jones and they're coming back with Ryan. I think Matt Ryan's the one I have the most exposure to right now. I do think Mahomes would be the next one I would look to, and I have no problem, especially large field GPPs, with taking shots in these spots on a guy like Brian Hoyer. You can sort of pay up and do the other normal things if you play him, and you've got two easy receivers to stack him with who are really cheap, and you can pay up at every other spot on the table and just be fine. Make sense?
Yeah.
What are you struggling with?
Yeah, I'm just struggling with the whole thing, man. Because again, with these 2-game slates, especially the ones that kind of just pop up, it's hard to get a gauge, so to speak, of where ownership is going to really come in. And I think that there's like no real like standout, the guy I have to have. So
I think Aaron Jones is the guy you have to have.
Yeah,
personally,
I guess so, huh?
Just for me, he is. I mean, I
like a top position player by like a shitload.
He and Edwards-Helaire are the guys who I feel like you have to have. And then James White is just, I'm just falling more and more in love with this play unless I get any bad coach speak. And that's what I'm saying. I want to play some Jamal Williams, but I can't get him in anywhere because of liking these other guys. I like Jamal Williams in this kind of a game. I think that he actually, like, it wouldn't shock me if somehow he just out of the blue, he's not going to get more targets or more carries, but he could break a big play and he's going to be on the field a good amount. So maybe I'll take some Aaron Jones out and throw a little bit of Jamal Williams and get a little bit creative. I do really like these running backs today, though. I don't think I'm not going to be playing many lineups without running backs in the flex, personally.
What do you mean? I mean, what about today's slate, or is it just the play?
I like the running backs. I like Jones, Edwards-Helaire, and James White a ton, and then I like some of Burkhead, and I would play Gurley if he was there, but I also like Jamal Williams. So there's a lot of guys to like. Whereas the receivers, while there's guys we can take shots on, they're not exactly like. I don't feel as great about them. I'm okay with being low, and also I'm always going to be okay with being more willing to fade the receivers than the running backs.
All right, we got any questions?
All right, guys, get some QQs in. Oh, James White thoughts. Wesley just came in. I love James White. I think he's an awesome GBP play tonight. My plan was to play him a little bit this weekend, so that gives you a feeling for how much I like him. Get some QQs in, and we are going to get out of here in a little bit if you guys get them in.
Yeah, we have a dollar bet coming.
All right. Well, let's take a dollar bet then while we wait for the QQs.
The dollar bet is this: I will bet you that James White has higher ownership than Rex Burkhead.
Well, but okay. In all fairness, though, we're sort of betting. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's fair enough. That's fair. But I'm telling you right now, the projections are not suggesting that. But even if he does have more, he can't have that much because Edwards-Helaire and Aaron Jones are going to be in 80% of the lineups. So then you've got him, Gurley, Burkhead, Jamal Williams to choose between if you're going to play a third running back or all the receivers. You just can't be owned that much.
Let me ask you this. So this isn't exactly a showdown slate, but is this when you're supposed to play other Kansas City running backs or no?
It's almost the spot where you could. I think that's actually a sharp call. Like I considered that. The problem is I think it's just there's too many good running backs. I just think it'd be so silly to play Darrell Williams, however you want to pronounce his name. I just think it would be so silly to play him over the other guys. I can't see doing it. And how do you play him over Jamal Williams? You know what I mean? How do I play him even over James White? I just can't do it.
But it's interesting because, like when we talk about 14-game slates, we say, oh, we don't want to play any of this crap. And then we go to 1-game slates and, you really want to play all this crap. So this 2-game is kind of a weird spot.
Yeah. But also just the Williams thing, like, so what's your upside you're hoping for versus the other guys? Like, he has to get at least 10 fantasy points for him to be anything good to you. Now, and then he has to sort of outscore these other guys who are just going to. But, like, if Edwards-Helaire gets an ankle sprain or something, you might look like the biggest genius in the world. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
that sort of – no, but I mean, on 2-game slates, I mean, those are the kind of things, like, injuries happen. When there's going to have players with too high ownership, I always think that. I always think, hey, there's a chance this guy could get hurt. In football, I mean, it happens. These guys get hurt, at least in missed portions of games, like, I don't know, 15% of the games?
Hey, I have a question. Can we go back? You made me think of something.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're talking about, like, how kind of weird do you want to get in these things? So go back to baseball for just a second.
Yeah.
So is it too early or too late or too big of a slate to do stuff like speculate on relievers or no?
It's a horrible slate to do it.
Okay.
It's going to be a horrible slate most of the time when these good pitchers are in there, unless you have the weird spot. It's never going to be. It'll only be situational. It will never be like a general. Hey, there's 3 games. That means we're going to play relievers. You know what I mean? It's going to be like one of those, depending on how teams use their bullpen, kind of a thing. But it's just in general. It's just such a. And also we're going to have more games coming up. We're not just going to be playing 2-game slates, coming up soon, which is nice.
Right.
Hey, what's up to the guys in the chat? Joe Pagliarulo, what's up, buddy? I like Matt Ryan over Rodgers, but I don't mind Rodgers either. QQ, really, do you start Gary the GOAT hoping he plays or not? Yeah, like you don't have to worry about that because you can always switch off and do a double switch up for, I guess. I mean, there's no way you won't be able to have a million hours to switch off of Gary Sanchez. Which wide receiver from Green Bay is viable today? We just talked about that, and honestly, it's really, really hard to figure out this situation. So I'm taking shots to be over the field on all of them because I'm going to be under the field on the other guys. So Shepard probably makes the most obvious sense, along with Scantling. But I'm playing Scantling too. I mean, I'm just my plan is to be ahead on all 3. Hopefully, I can do a little research and try and find any recent Green Bay coach about these guys. I've heard good things about Shepard, but nothing recent. And Rodgers is going to have to throw somebody. What's up to Ken Jones? What's up? Just says what's up to my boys. Good to see you guys. If there's no QQs, I think we're going to get out of here in a minute. Sheets might have another. Looks like he's got to get a phone call. But other than his phone call, Sheets, any other thoughts?
No, we're good.
One punt on NFL that would be a dart throw. I'm just going to take a quick look at my thing. They just asked this question, and I'm going to say I like Jamal Williams. I just don't like the position he's in. It's not a dart throw to play Sammy Watkins, so he doesn't count. But I will say I'm going to go through my ownerships and see who my biggest dart throw might be on a bigger line. Well, James White's not a dart throw. He's a good play, but he's lower owned. Damiere Byrd might be your guy. Damiere Byrd and Jamal Williams might be the guys I would lean to as the big-time darts throws.
You know what you should probably do? I mean, if you want to get different, I mean, you probably the most chalky play on the slate might be Kansas City defense. Maybe fade them.
Yeah, the only problem is that, I mean, there's
plenty of problems.
No, I just don't have any – I don't feel like I need to, pay up for defense necessarily. I'd rather just take a shot on even a crappy defense or whatever. The only one that's going to be hard to get me to play is probably the Patriots. But then again, no one's going to play them. So one mistake by the Chiefs and
yeah,
they might be a right thing. So I like that actually. Yeah,
I mean, pick 6 won someone all the money yesterday.
Yeah. Hey, good to know Ken Jones. Appreciate he just dropped his name in there so we can keep track of each other. We'll keep an eye out for you at the top of the leaderboards out there. And sure, we've been up there together multiple times, and I'm sure we will be again soon. Guys, I think we can cover this slate. It's been great having you guys with us. We've got some new exciting things happening at BetQL, so be sure to check that out. Before you leave, please give us the like and give BetQL a shot. Promo code BobbyFi for 20% off everything. And for Sheets.
So I have one other comment.
This always happens. I say, Sheets, do you have anything else? And then you go, no. And then you go, well, I say this.
I do have one last thing, just to let you know what I'm doing, because in the era of transparency. On FanDuel, there will be, in baseball, there will be 35% Bassett, there will be 40% Snell, and only 10% Cole. So.
I'm with you, except for I have 0% Cole and 0% Snell on there. I'm going Bassett, basically, is what I'm doing.
I love it.
I mean, look, man, at the 2-game slate, we got to get weird. What are we going to do? Guys, thanks for tuning in. For everyone out there, for the people at BetQL, for Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck out there, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.